My wife and I have just completed Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And I mean completed, I mean 160 hours completed. Every possible story, treasure, artifact, mystery, everywhere. We've done every possible thing you can do. We got all the hidden weapons, all the hidden armors. We've seen all the possible endings, read all the computer files back in present day with every possible character you can play as. And I've got a lot to say on it. So this video is going to be my final thoughts on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There will be spoilers. There will probably be a lot of spoilers because it's hard to talk about the end of this game without really understanding, bits and pieces, the way it interconnects. Very, very clever writing. A lot of things that you play through the first time, you don't really understand until you see some of the other endings, and then it kind of overlays on itself. And I'm being vague right now on purpose because I'm going to tell you, if you haven't played this game, stop watching this video and come back later. Or if you really just don't care, stick along for the ride. So I will say this. Overall, I think Assassin's Creed is a good game. I don't think Assassin's Creed Valhalla is an Assassin's Creed game. They make a lot of attempts to make fun of assassination or stealth type missions. There are 0 in the game of which, if you are detected, the mission fails. They actually even give you a basically chaos on demand button with your raid war horn, where at any time you can blow the horn and bring in 5 of your best friends or however many people are in the Viking boat to just tear stuff up with you. Every single mission has no fail state short of you dying. There's no way to spook a tail or to get caught sneaking in. It's totally up to you. The combat is very fast and fluid, especially as you start to upgrade your character. When you get the ability to hold a weapon in each hand, a two-handed weapon in each hand, you're going to have a lot of fun with this. And if you're like me and you've leveled up everything, you're going to have Excalibur in one hand, Thor's hammer in another, ruined out of your mind. You are going to be a god among men. Literally, as we find out later. But you're just going to have a really fun time with combat in this game. The toggling between archery and melee is very fluid. It works very well. There's a nice combo system. The adrenaline system, which allows you to perform these larger-than-life attacks where you run and kick somebody off a cliff or tackle them and beat their face in the ground. You summon a wolf to attack somebody, light your sword on fire. You're going to be able to be an offensive powerhouse. And you're going to want to play that way. You're not going to use your hidden blade at all. You're not going to play stealth at all. And that raises an interesting question as to why they went this route and why they felt the need to make this an Assassin's Creed game when it really could have just been kind of like a one-off in the sense, like Mortal's Phoenix Rising. I don't know why they felt they had to shoehorn in the Assassin Templar story into this, because even there it takes a backseat, largely until the very, very, very end. As a matter of fact, other than some of the mysteries, which are these augmented reality climbing puzzles with Layla, other than that, in one brief moment where you pop out of the Animus very, very early on in the game, you never have to deal with Sean, Rebecca, or Layla at all. It's only till the very end of the game when everything comes full circle and you understand exactly what just happened. That's when you start to see a little bit more modern day hooks, but they're absolutely not required for the enjoyment of Eivor's story, and they are a complete afterthought. I would say if Ubisoft wants to make another Assassin's Creed game, they need to get back to the basics. I'm really thinking along the lines of Assassin's Creed 1, maybe Assassin's Creed 2, where you had these stealth missions that mattered, where your character wasn't a walking tank, where you could take punishment and die, and you were incentivized to be hidden, whether through more experience or maybe skill trees that gave you more offense from the shadows, so to speak. This game did not have any of that, and I think it suffers and it hurts the brand. The game itself, phenomenally fun, at least in the combat perspective, but in the branding, I think it drops the ball, and I think that's going to turn a lot of people off right away. Moving on to some of the other things that I really liked about the game, whereas each individual zone tells its own story. Now, it ultimately gets pretty damn repetitive. You're going to be doing this quite a bit, where you're going to be basically all things to all people. You will always solve the problem, the mystery, the challenge, the whatever. Eivor will always come to the rescue. And in terms of character growth and in terms of trials and tribulations, you will have none. You are always right. You will always win. You're the strongest, you're the smartest, you're the funniest, you're the fastest. And it kind of gets boring in that sense. You know, being a strong Viking character, we chose to play as the female. Doesn't matter if you play the male or the female. But being a strong Viking character would have been cool if there were challenges. Maybe you're not the strongest. Maybe you're not the smartest. Maybe you have to rely on your friends to help you out. And we really don't get those interjections of other characters in the way that, like, I think of Leonardo da Vinci in early Assassin's Creed games, how pivotal of a character he was to Ezio's story. You don't really get that here. Yes, there are some hooks if you read about Viking literature and Viking history and stuff like that. You know, there are some names that you'll be like, oh, I recognize that. And obviously a lot of tie-ins to Norse mythology. But really, in terms of moment-to-moment growth of Eivor, there isn't much. The Eivor you start the game with is almost the exact same Eivor you end the game with, minus a couple obviously significant moments. But really, the character never grows. And I found that to be extremely disappointing. But I guess when you look at it in these bite-sized moments of exploring each little place and solving each individual mystery, they are fun because sometimes they're a whodunit. It's pick the spy. Or one of them was a guy, it was a king and his wife are married and they hate each other. And they're trying to figure out a way to get a divorce without upsetting the kingdom. You have betrayals, you have overthrowings of kingdoms, you have revenge of people you loved who have been murdered. There's a lot of different worlds you're going to explore, particularly when you start to do some of the Norse stuff. That was very interesting as well. It employed a lot of magic and a lot of supernatural elements, which I thought was a fun difference from kind of the more grounded gameplay that you had, particularly in the England area. So, you know, like I said, it's like you do one good thing in this game, but then you immediately can counter it. You're like, oh, well, the stories are good, but they're the same, and it's kind of boring that you're good. The character development isn't really there, but at the same time, there were some fun moments. I think ultimately for me, what stuck with the game was it was very bite-sized. Everything you do is of little consequence outside of the main story. And even then, it's kind of, you really, once you finish a zone, you know, you pledge to a zone. Think back on some of those quests you did. They're not really that exciting. And, you know, it was very easy for my wife and I after work to, you know, walk upstairs and like, hey, we're going to play for 30 minutes. Let's just get all the treasures in this immediate area. Let's go get all the wealth in this area. Very, very fast to collect the Roman masks. Very fast to find a treasure. Very fast to do one of the alignment puzzles where you had to find the hidden shapes on the rocks. And it felt almost like a portable game at that point. And I think that's what stuck. I never felt like I was bogged down with these, you know, 3-hour cutscenes or these really deep expositions that didn't make a lot of sense. The story was explained in very bite-sized pieces. The only exception to that, and where I think a lot of people probably got lost, I know I did. I had to rely heavily on YouTube, particularly because I haven't really played the other games, was Basim's character and this whole idea of the Greek god or the Norse gods being reincarnated. Basim basically being Loki reincarnated, Eivor being Odin reincarnated. You had Tyr and Sigurd. That I didn't really understand until I went back and I completed all of the collection. When I got the little movie that plays as you unlock, those 10 artifacts, as I mentioned, with those augmented reality climbing challenges with Layla, then you see the ending of what really happened. Not what they wanted you to see when you played Jotunheim, but what really happened with the Greek god, or I keep saying Greek, with the Norse gods putting those helmets on their head and uploading their conscience into these babies, and seeing Loki wanting revenge on Odin, not knowing how to get it, thinking that Sigmund is actually Odin, right? And seeing Basim basically shepherd him, trying to get revenge, not realizing that it's Eivor is actually the reincarnated Odin, was cool. That was fun. I wanted more of that. Because the Eivor story that takes place in the era, the Viking conquest, like I said, it's okay. They're interesting side little stories, but it's not something you're going to remember in a year from now. I feel like the back end story, Layla being tricked with Loki having this master plan to basically pull Layla into the Animus to be stuck in there with the Reader, which is Desmond, stuck there trying to solve this, ancient Isu, the people who came before, their ancient puzzle, while he's able to switch, and he played her to get the staff to regenerate his health, to be in present day, a wolf in sheep's clothing, rocking the wolf shirt when he comes out of the Animus. Very, very masterclass, written very, very well. I really, really liked that, and I thought it was a good touch. And when you think about it like that, the writing is really deep. You just don't get that in the game. Those bite-sized moments, those dopey mysteries that you did of, nonsensical things that weren't even really funny or fun. They were just like, hey, go get my clothes from the nudist colony, or go fight a nun named Faith because, I keep the faith. And it's like there's plays, there's a lot of pop culture references. There's a lot there was one about Prodigy, the band Prodigy. They have like a mini mission, which is the name of their song. And the character who gives you the quest is the name of the lead singer of Prodigy. There were dumb missions where you had to feed some woman snake eggs so she would fart in the sewers, which would like smoke out the town. It was dumb. And you look at the care and the writing that went into that backstory, and you think to yourself, damn, why couldn't they figure that out in the main game? Because I don't think a lot of people saw it the way that I did. I don't think a lot of people are going to complete this game 100% and get every single thing to really understand the true lore behind it. You're not going to get that eureka moment playing the game going, wait a minute, this guy lost his arm and this guy lost his arm. Oh my God, it's the same people. It's fate repeating itself. And when you're watching those flashbacks and you're playing as Hadi, and you're like, but wait, I'm Eivor. Why is everybody referring to me as Odin? And that final fight at the end where you're fighting Odin and he's like, get back here, and he's trying to wrangle control of your conscience in this really epic boss fight. A lot of people miss that. I mean, I did. And I played the damn game. But, I feel like that's where this game really went off the rails. It was too big. It was too long. It was too cumbersome in that sense. And like I said, I did enjoy it. I played it. But I guess this is the real indication. When we finished the game, and like I said, we finished the game, I turned to my wife and I said, okay, listen, like we've done it all. We are maxed character. I think we have 70 or 80 points in mastery. We put them all into bear because, we want melee. We're basically one-shotting everything at this point. I can't lose health. I got full Thor's gear on entirely. We do have the DLC coming because we bought the collector edition, which, we'll play. I turned to her and I said, okay, we're pretty much done with this game now. We have a strong feeling that Assassin's Creed will be making a comeback in 2021. It's pretty much an annual franchise again. Are you excited for whatever they do next? And both her and I agreed, no, we are not. I don't know if I need another Assassin's Creed game in my life if it's like this one. I appreciate they are thinking outside the box. I appreciate they tried a different approach where they basically took a very basic thread of a story and shotgun blasted it across 9 or 10 different zones, where they had all these little treasures and collectibles scattered around the world, constantly finding new pieces of gear and upgraded equipment, taking it back, upgrading your town, getting quests from your town, the daily system, all these things that they put in. I appreciate the creativity and the originality. But do I want to do it again? No, I do not. I would have to really see a significant fundamental shift in what Ubisoft considers an Assassin's Creed game for me to consider buying Assassin's Creed 2021. And I suspect a lot of people are going to fall in that camp. And I think maybe it's time again for Ubisoft to take a year off, kind of like they did after the Unity game came out, which was a colossal flop. Maybe it's time for them to take some time off and really ask themselves, what is Assassin's Creed? Because this isn't it. This is not Assassin's Creed. This is a fun combat game. This is a fun exploration game that has interesting climbing mechanics. But in terms of the stealth gameplay that we used to know and love, the dual assassinations, the sneaking around, pickpocketing, almost the Hitman-esque changing costumes or at least blending in with the crowd, really having a strong sense of fight between an assassin and a Templar, and really pitting those two forces against each other. This game had none of that. No big bad really other than the king, and even his final farewell. He's a bread maker. You don't even get to kill him. It's just such a lame ending. I'm glad I beat the game. I enjoyed it. I absolutely got my money's worth. I'm incredibly grateful I picked up the collector's edition. I think Eivor as a character, just the model is cool. I like the bust that came with the collector's edition, but the game pushing the envelope for what Assassin's Creed is, for pushing that genre in the future, this isn't it. So Ubisoft, it's time to go back to the drawing board and ask yourself, what are you guys doing? Because this was just way out there. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you guys for making it with me. I knew this would be a rant, and looking at the timer, I'm closing down shop on this one. Leave some comments below. Let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me or somewhere in between. I like to hear from you guys. Let's get the discussion going. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.